Greetings, everybody. My name is Archbishop Gregory. I am head of the Genuine Orthodox Church in America. I am presenting this video and others, as you can probably see on the website, to highlight the different groups of schismatics and heretics that call themselves Orthodox. And today I'm going to talk about another Greek synod, which is called HOCNA, or the Holy Orthodox Church in North America. Before we talked about the GOC, Genuine Orthodox Christians, Matherites, and what their characteristic is. Their main characteristic is extremism and fanaticism, because they say if you celebrate Nativity or Theophany or St. George's feast not exactly the way everybody else does, then you're not Orthodox. And that's fanaticism. They take the calendar issue and blow it completely out of proportion. The other group we talked about was the Cyprianites, and the characteristics of their group is deceit, I would say. They're called the Synod of Resistors, but they want to give communion to the heretics, and they're saying because ecumenism wasn't officially condemned. I don't know where they get that from. That Christ's body now, the body of Christ now has ailing parts. Christ's body has sick parts. They're ill. They're sick. Well, and so they are in communion with heretics, but saying that they condemn heretics. Well, that's deceitful. Then the other GOC group we talked about was the Klinikos group. And their main characteristic is desire for money, so they could fill up their churches, and they look the other way and will give communion and minister to the New Calendar or ecumenical Greek churches, faithful, so they could fill up their churches. So they sell, in a way, they sell their mysteries, which is a blasphemy. But if they didn't give communion and minister to the churches of the ecumenical patriarchate, their churches would be empty. But they call themselves Old Calendar confessors, but in reality they are not. Now this group is called HOCNA, and the main characteristic of this group, one could say, is cultism and idolatry. It all centers around one person. His name is Father Panteleimon, whom they all call as the elder, and this is a picture of him. He came from the Greek Archdiocese and joined the Russian Church abroad at the time ecumenism started. And quite frankly, the Russian bishops did not know much about him, but he brought a monastery that he started in Boston. And this is a picture of that monastery. It's Holy Transfiguration Monastery. This is the back side of it, with Father Justin in the front of the picture. He brought with him a monastery. So the Russians, well, they're saying these people are leaving the heresies. No, they received them, but they didn't do any examination. And so, what happened? In January 1986, four former monks of the monastery made accusations against the abbot and the monks there that they were being sexually abused, and made testimony that Father Panteleimon is a practicing homosexual, and that others in the monastery participated in these acts. Well, an investigation was made, and 2 bishops were assigned to investigate these accusations. Archbishop Anthony of Los Angeles and Bishop Alibi of Chicago, who was my bishop at the time. I was a priest. And they found that there was reasonable cause that a trial should be brought. But during this investigation, or immediately after, 2 other monks left the monastery and also came before the bishop. So now there were 6. And finally, almost a year later, in December 1986, the Russian Synod finally suspended Father Panteleimon and Father Isaac, who is his right-hand man. And here is his picture. He is now, at the present time, he is the abbot, whereas before it was Father Panteleimon. And they suspended them. And it was known that they're going to be brought to trial. So what did they do? 6 witnesses testifying of the same situation, and the bishops understood that these people were guilty because 2 of the witnesses never even met each other, and years apart, and had written their testimony and had used the same phrases in their testimony that Father Panteleimon uses. So it was a situation that had to be brought to trial. So when the monastery understood this, and of course they understood their guilt, they fled from the Russian Church. And they went to some Greek bishops. Now they did this to avoid a trial, and they accused the Russian Church of ecumenism, because and they had a big following also. They had a big following of Greeks, or converts, Greeks and converts. And the only canonical way you could leave your bishop is if you accuse them of some kind of heresy. So they accused them of ecumenism, which didn't happen until 8 years later, when the Russian Church went in communion with the Cyprianite ecumenists. So, but you can't leave your bishop 8 years before he falls into heresy. It's not possible. And at the same time be pleasing to God. And it's not obeying the laws of God. So they accused their bishops, but everybody knew and understood that they were fleeing from being deposed. And when that happened, yes, the Russian Church said that these people are running away from a trial, a spiritual court, and so they deposed them. And here is the deposition papers, official declaration of the Synod of Bishops of the Russian Church abroad. So these people are deposed clergy. And if they continue to serve, they even condemn themselves more by falling under more canons. But the Greek bishops that they went under, they were given lies, song and dance, that the Russians were persecuting the Greeks, and that they had to flee the Russian church in America, and they had to go to these two Greek bishops. Now, who were these two Greek bishops? Akakius the Younger. At that time, he's an old man. And Gabriel. And these two bishops had separated themselves from the GOC of Greece. One, because Gabriel, he had a lot of money, and he did not want to share it with everybody. He didn't want to be told, So he kind of separated himself. Didn't start his own synod, but separated himself so he could manage his own affairs, so to speak. And his own affairs were big affairs because he had so much money. He bought a cruise liner, named it St. Irene Cristovalando, because in his monastery, many pilgrims came, and St. Irene Cristovalando performed many miracles for the people because of the faith of the people and because of her grace. But he was made wealthy. And another person was Akakius. He separated because he was not respected by the synod. He wasn't chosen to be the archbishop. They overlooked him and chose someone else. So these two people were approached, and they said, come together and form a synod, and we will join you. And so that's what they did. Now, the Russian church saw this, and they sent the two bishops all the testimonies of what happened to the victims of this Father Panteleimon. Well, when Gabriel saw that, he read the testimonies, and he said, I don't want to have anything to do with these people. This was a big mistake. And so he left them. He said, it wasn't right for me to receive you at the beginning anyhow, because you people are... That's what he should have said. I should have investigated this. But okay, so now they're left with one bishop, Akakius. One bishop cannot ordain Father Panteleimon or his disciples. Even though Akakius read all these accusations, he tried to do something as long as they were obedient to him and still wanted to stay with him, to minimize Father Panteleimon's influence and on and on. But the bottom line, he was just one bishop. He couldn't ordain and not make a fool of himself and of those whom he ordained. So Father Panteleimon and his group had to find another synod. So where did they go? They went to Auxentius, who was himself deposed for ordaining a homosexual, Dorotheus Sakos, without the knowledge of his synod. He was brought to trial and found guilty and deposed. Justly. There is no question. So, but of all the people they went to a person whom they before had called the garbage pit of orthodoxy, according to Father Panteleimon's own words, as if he is a person that could criticize anybody. But he criticized this Auxentius for his uncanonical ordinations. But now he needed him. And this man was separated from the synod with 2 or 3 of his other bishops. And so he had a rebellious parasynagogue synod. And these people in Hockner were a parasynagogue also, because the definition of a parasynagogue is applied to gatherings held by insubordinate presbyters and bishops. Okay, we just talked about parasynagogues. Here's the canon which applies to these people. Canon 31 of the Holy Apostles. If any presbyter, despising his own bishop, shall collect a separate congregation and erect another altar, not having any grounds for condemning the bishop with regard to religion or justice, let him be deposed for his ambition, for he is a tyrant. In like manner also the rest of the clergy, and as many as join him, let laymen be excommunicated. So they were insubordinate in that they did not obey their bishops. They fled from them and continue to serve when they are forbidden to serve. And they were ordained by most of them were ordained, well, all of them except for Father Panteleimon from that group in the monastery were ordained by the Russian bishops. Okay, so Maxentius, of course, he received them. There's no question. He would receive anybody. And we're not going to go into all the horrific acts that happened to show these people, to wake them up, because there was a lot of innocent people who followed this group into heresy or into schism. But they cannot say that God did not warn them and even show them signs that what they are doing is very, very wrong. And there is a website up on the internet put up by the victims of this group, because the victims are not 6, but after they left the Russian Church abroad, more monks left, more stories came out, more victims, and it's just heartbreaking to hear their stories, and others who are not even in the monastery, outside the monastery, how their lives were ruined by being involved with these people who have no regard for the holy canons, absolutely none. Okay, so they joined this group, and they immediately ordained their disciples. The first one that was ordained is Father Frem here, who's now Bishop of Frem, quote-unquote Bishop of Frem. This is his picture. And they continue to this day. But the bottom line is, why did all this happen? Because they wanted, as a brotherhood, who knew the guilt of Father Panteleimon, they wanted to cover him. And they have Father Panteleimon as their idol. This is why their idolatry is a characteristic of this group, because they will not help anybody to investigate him, to look in his past, to see why he admittedly, even by his disciples, admitted that he has this quote-unquote problem. So they protect him. They protect him and cover him. And because they did this, they wound up outside the church. So beware of this group. They will only hurt you. They will only hurt you. They have really no scruples. They will sue people whom they do not like, and I am one of them. They copyright something like the creed, and if you publish their creed and they don't like it, or the creed and they don't like it, they'll sue you. And again, disregarding the admonition of the apostles and the canons. Okay, so beware of this group, because many have been hurt by them. Many have been hurt, and this website, Hochner.info, explains their whole story. Okay, God bless you. Thank you for listening. Amen.